Hi, everyone. Welcome to Professionals on the Grind, where we share honest self taught career advice with driven individuals. And today we have Morgan. Morgan, welcome.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. So, I'd like to start off with, you know, could you tell us what your current position is, what your industry is, um, and then just start there?
Yes, right now I'm an office manager in higher education, and I am there because I'm about 4 or 5 years graduated, and it's hit the point where I just kind of want like that easy secretary job that I can show up, clock in, and then go home and clock out and not have that like emotional burden taken with me. I feel like the last several jobs that I like dipped my toe in the professional waters, I was like, this is not what I was expecting, and I'm kind of trying to take a break from that right now. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm just an office manager, which is nice because that's all the responsibility that I want right now.
I love it. And you know what? I think that's a really good conversation where sometimes you just want a job that pays the bills. And a lot of jobs are emotionally taxing when you clock off.
Right.
Okay.
They're not paying me for that. So,
Not paying you to cry, right? Trauma, workplace trauma. And I'm so sorry. That's my dog. Can you hear her barking a little bit?
minimally.
All right, perfect. Wonderful. We'll carry on. So I'd like to start from the beginning. So could you tell us what the highest level of education was for your parents? And did they influence your decision in your education at all?
So my my mom did go to a 4 year college, but she pursued a degree to be a elementary school teacher. So she's done that my whole life. And my dad, he did not go to college, but he did graduate high school. So that's his highest level of education. He does um, like manual labor, like with floor installation. So I feel like he had a very different mindset than my mom as far as like, well, I can make more money than your mom because I'm actually working with like a skilled trade, and there's value in that. And so he did teach me that. And my mom also presented to me, like the easier path. If I don't want to work on my hands and knees or grind like my dad does, then I could seek a different path. So I feel like there was never a pressure from either of them to do what they did. They were both just like, this is how it is, like the good and the bad with both of it. And I think that allowed me to make my own decision. And I think that as a kid at that time, I did feel like my parents weren't putting the pressure on me, but society was kind of sending that message that like you have to go to a 4 year institution to be successful. And success looks like being the CEO and having all these cars. And like success was defined in my head like that. So I was going after that without really having the like how to get to that point planned out. And I think that more kids going into college like they don't realize that. I feel like they would benefit from realizing that like you don't just immediately like leave with a degree and now you're like making money. It is a lot of strategy in between there for some people. For most people, I feel like.
I love it. Sorry, if you see me hop off camera, it's because my dog is. So, yeah, I think your dad's having the last laugh because I think in the
Yeah.
last maybe decade, it's be an entrepreneur, go back to trade school. Plumbers make
Right.
so much money. For even when I was going to college, so many people were pushing 4 year, 4 year, 4 year. That's the only way to make it. Who wants to be a plumber? But plumbers, to your dad's point, make a lot of money. Right?
Yes.
You're your own boss. You're an entrepreneur.
Yes.
But there's a lot of avenues with the 4th year. It's just I don't think when you go that 4th year route, you don't go to college and learn how to make that a career. You just
Right.
learn concepts,
Right. Right.
books, and getting creative and getting drunk, right?
Right.
No, wonderful. It's so this is my next question. What was your career and did you choose it based off of money or passion?
So I'm sorry, my dog is also trying to enter the chat right now.
Oh, they're all trying to get a quick, come here, Bella. Oh my goodness, you're fine. Except your dog's always classy and silent.
I was like trying to like keep him from coming up, but he's like, no, I'm involved in this as well. So I'm sorry. When you come back, please repeat the question.
Wonderful. Sorry, there's water in the room. That's what she's after. So, like, podcast shift, pivot, how to train your dog, right? No. What was your major, and did you choose it because of passion or money?
Okay, good, great. I love that question. I chose political science. That's what I started as, and I went into it with passion because I had a very naive viewpoint of how politics in America worked, and I felt like I want to be a leader, I want to enact change, I want to be involved in the daily benefit of other people, and that's what I wanted to go to school for. And then I studied politics, and I realized that that is really not where our government is at right now, and that's not where a lot of the actors' heads are. So I felt like, okay, I need to pivot. So halfway through my program, I talked to my advisor, and she was like, well, actually, a lot of students in your program dual major in history because there are so many overlapping credits that you really don't lengthen your program like length at all. You go for the same amount of time, and a lot of the time you could earn the both degrees at the same time. So why not? So all I had to do was take a couple of intro history classes, and I was basically where I needed to be for both programs. And I think that that helped me because it allowed me to pivot from, okay, how am I going to enter the workforce with this degree and not want to do what the degree is meant to do? Like, I wasn't even interested in political science as a science because that was even something I was looking into. Like, I had the intention of going to school to either be a politician or to be a lobbyist or to be a political scientist and like look at the numbers of that data. I loved that, like the theory of politics. But now it's just all sickening to me. So I really don't think at least for right now, I don't think I could do that as a career. And so adding history on as a double major, I at that point was like, okay, maybe this would allow me to go to grad school and pursue some sort of higher education and be a professor even. But I still haven't gotten to that point where I know exactly what I want to do or how I want to integrate my programs into that. I'm not sure that they will be integrated, but I don't think that on the other side of college, I regret having gone, even though I don't see myself using either of the degrees. But at the time, I did choose them based on passion. I was trying to find a way to make them make money, but I have not successfully done
So,
that yet.
knowing what you know now, and you're still new to the workforce, so
Yes.
would you go back and change your major for something that you weren't aware of, or for money?
Okay, so I would probably answer two ways. And that's the thing. That's why I'm in this predicament of like going more corporate and making more money now, or going more passion and doing something that really like adds fulfillment to my life. Like if I knew the answer to that, I would be in a different position
You're
now.
not
But
there yet,
I know, but I think based on what I'm leaning towards, I would honestly just tell myself back then to skip college, go to some sort of, I mean, even do college, but like do a program that doesn't require me to do a lot so that way I have the college experience, but then I'm also doing like a skilled trade. I genuinely think that I was a fool not to listen to my dad. I feel like especially as a
that's
woman in some of those fields, yeah, so I think that I would tell myself go to college for that experience because I really appreciate like growing up with my peers during that period, but I would not be worried about the programs that I'm learning. I would definitely focus more on being able to do even computer science or coding or things like that that's not necessarily physically demanding but are skilled trades. I would definitely go down that path, I think, rather than go to college at all or change my
Would
major.
you consider, because you're so young, would you consider going back to get a quick 2 year like business management course and then manage your dad's business?
So he is asking me to do such a thing. I don't know, just because he is difficult to work with, and if he ever sees this, he won't judge me because he knows that he is. I definitely would. I think that I have the necessary office skills, like I've definitely professionally grown myself to a degree that I think I can reconcile bills and do the mundane paperwork that he's not interested in doing. And I also think that with a little bit of business management skills, I would also be able to handle the accounting, handle the hiring, handle those types of things with taxes, and I think help his business. So it's not off the table. It's just I've got to figure out how to work around his personality.
And you know what? That's the biggest obstacle in the workplace, right? But we can talk
Right.
about it a little later. I'd love to, it's so interesting because I think before, when you think first generation professional, having an entrepreneurial parent who does own a trade business is
Mhm.
different, right?
Right.
Because you can just be Morgan, you're wasting an opportunity to be a nepo baby in your dad's company. Like, opportunity. Oh, like that
I
vice
know.
president. Don't call my dad. You got a problem with me, right? Like HR, that's dad. Or just and then your mom, right? Where she's an educator, she's a high school teacher, but it's such a different industry. So you graduate college. What does you looking for a job start with or look like? How many were you months without a job? Did you have
Mhm.
something lined up? What did that look like for you?
So I in college, and I still to this day, I feel like I'm very type A. I like fear the unknown. So as soon as I graduated, already had a job lined up. I was interviewing like I graduated in December, but I was interviewing in October and November. So that way, by the time I graduated, I knew that I could transition. Like having that period of unemployment scared me, and I felt like that was a mental benchmark that I wanted to hit to prove to myself I'm doing it. But now having so many years between me and that point, I have gone through periods of unemployment. I have realized that the job I ran right into was so toxic, and I was hopeful to get out of eventually. So I feel like at the time I was like, yes, I got a job and I have like 3 jobs lined up if that's what I need to do. Like I was trying to prove to myself and to my peers that I was successful and prepared, but it like I think the definition of success has shifted for me since then. So I wouldn't say that that was successful. No, I wouldn't say.
No, that's amazing because I think that is actually a fault in the education system. That
Yeah.
last quarter of your university or schooling, you should have a course or be
Mhm.
instructed by at least one professor, your advisor. Hey, you start applying for jobs 3, 4 months before you graduate because
Right.
then you get left in limbo. You need that interview time. So that's really amazing that you were able to just create a schedule for yourself, right? Be
Mhm.
that diligent on your future. I was maybe 4 months without a job after I
Mhm.
graduated because I did not do that, and I wish I
Mhm.
did. So that's amazing, Morgan. That's amazing. So and we're going to treat this episode a little differently, right? I'm going to ask you different questions that I usually don't ask. So I love that you were able to identify a position or job and it wasn't for you. How many years were you with this company and how long did it take you to make that assessment that it was time for you to leave?
I was with them for 2 years, and I think about the year and a half mark with that job and with a different job. I feel like year and a half is about when I am able to assess, like, this is pros and cons weighed, I feel like not working out for me. So I think a year and a half is about my sweet spot of reassessing. Okay, I've given it a year. I've got that resume point, so I've benefited in as much as I can expect from a job. Is this giving me professional development? Is this giving me networking abilities? Is this giving me like personal enrichment? And if it can't give me those things, then that's kind of when I try to move on. And that's when I did. I moved on about 6 months after that point with that company. And even if I am like getting to a point where I'm like, okay, I cannot stand coming in, like this is really just like affecting my mental health. I still am just like trying to channel that energy into job hunting and into resume building and trying to different differentiate my skills and identify them so that way whenever I'm interviewing I can articulate them better. So I'm just practicing interviews and things like that.
This is like the worst time to have dogs, right? I'm gonna get a babysitter for them or something like that. So no, I think you sound so impressive impressive, way more than I was at your age in trying to
Thank you.
figure out, what makes sense, what's going to help my career, when do you pivot, when do you have that time? And you sound very well informed. Does this come naturally? Are you doing research? Is it the people around you that are influencing your train of thought? Walk me through that.
Definitely. I think it's a mix of all the things. I feel like, especially as an older sibling and as someone who is just like a type A personality, I rely on my parents less, not because they're not there for me to rely on, but because my first default thought is to how do I figure this out? How can I take care of this? And so a lot of that comes from planning and preparing and always assessing and taking stock of how I feel about things. And I think that just kind of comes naturally, but then it always has benefited me to have professional friends and personal friends who see the day to day and hear about the day to day, who can validate, like, no, Morgan, that is not worth going through, or they're definitely taking advantage of you as far as pay. They could be giving you more. And I feel like I would at least gaslight myself or tell myself that it's not as bad as it really is if I didn't have backboards of professional and personal friends who can tell me, like, no, you're definitely valid in what you're seeing and feeling. I think I reaffirm and I'm more confident in my decision to leave when I have people like that who can support me in that way.
No, that's amazing. And was this first job that you were at 2 years the job that you left for your current position? I'm assuming.
No, so I've had a different job in between that, and I was at that position as well for about 2 years.
And it was the pay great and it was just a company culture, or what was the issue?
So I think that for both of them, the pay was fine. Like, they were both paying my bills. It wasn't like super lucrative. I was taking both of the positions because I was passionate about what I was doing. I think what changed for me was that I felt like I was doing all of this work for supervisors or owners. Like, one of them is a small business. I felt like the people I was doing the work for didn't deserve it, quite frankly. I felt like some of the people I was working with, once I got to know the like deeper side of them, I felt like, why am I working with nonprofits that are run by people whose morals aren't checking out or aren't aligning with mine? Like, I signed up for this mission, and the mission is not I don't want to say it's phony, because it was doing good. It was doing a lot of good, and I liked being a part of that. That's what sold me. I just think that the behind the scenes, once the curtain was pulled, I just couldn't reconcile that with what I'm getting paid. I'm like, why am I getting paid this when these people who
Right.
are
You're gonna be
evil?
like, pay me, for my emotional distress.
I know. I was like, now that I know your secrets, you need to pay me for that too. So
You need to pay for my silence. Right.
Exactly. And from one of those companies, I did have to sign an NDA when I was hired. So that just tells you they knew they had secrets.
Lock it down from day one. They're like,
Yeah,
Glassdoor is not a threat.
yeah. So I have learned lessons about that. I've not been asked to sign an NDA since
So
then.
you took your current role because you needed a shift, right? And I think you
Yeah.
share now you're looking into something else, right? Or you're starting to think, like, what does Morgan want to do long term? So we're going to use this as a bit of a strategy talk as well.
Okay.
As a poli-sci major myself, it is one of those jack of all trades. You can kind of go into government, you can go into politics, and government is different than politics because working for the state or local government is a field within itself. I don't know how it is in North Carolina, but here in California, you have to apply, take exams. It's a process to get a position for any government position. Elected official, which we've already ruled out. You can go into public administration, and you can
Hmm.
kind of play with HR in some kind of sense with her field as
Right.
well. And then any job in a nonprofit space,
Right.
you know, that's another direction. But what does Morgan want to do?
Morgan wants to live in a world where I don't have to work. I would love to just like invest in my passions. And like we were kind of saying earlier, before this conversation, I feel like it would be great to find that way to make my passions make me money. I haven't found that yet. And I think it might just be a lack of grind, a lack of motivation. Like I really just need to kick myself in the butt and go at it like I was when I was applying for jobs 3 months before I graduated. I think that I just need to remind myself of that energy and figure out a way to make my passions do that for me. But right now, Morgan just wants a break. I know that sounds so awful to say, and that's not even,
It's
yeah,
so easy to compare yourself to your colleagues, your friends. Oh,
yeah,
they just got a promotion. Oh, they look so happy and passionate about what they do. Or you learn about someone who is a mayor at 22, right? There's so many things you start comparing yourselves to. But when you've been working or you're just exhausted, having a job that pays your bills and, being in this limbo state is okay. It is
mhm,
very healthy. And it gives you an opportunity to try different things. So for you, where it sounds like you want to have passion in what you do, I think the best case scenario would be to volunteer for different
mhm.
organizations or even different events, because it doesn't have to be just the nonprofit space. You can volunteer for a local city cleanup and start chit-chatting with some of the elected officials or local, city governments, or even a private sector event, right? Go to a conference and start to schedule in different events to give you a perspective on different industries. And I think when you say, I want something I'm passionate about, it's so hard, because does that
Right,
mean you want to be an accountant? Does it mean
right,
you help with arthritis? Does it mean you want to, go shopping? Like, what is passion, right? So to kind of try to make you think a little bit more now, what kind of jobs are you okay? Are you okay with administrative work? Do you want to be out in the field? And can you sell? I think those are the big three
right,
foundational questions to ask yourself. Are you
right.
okay with which one?
I know that I cannot sell. I feel so unqualified for any type of sales position. I think I'm comfortable with administrative tasks and I'm very comfortable with field work and like speaking to people and leading groups of whatever sort of organization. I feel comfortable with those things more so than sales.
So would you want to be in the office, doing finance or administration for the next 10 years? And you stay in the office. I've had a job where if you were admin, you weren't even allowed to company events. So how
Yeah.
for
I don't know. I mean, for the right pay, I would be
right thing?
fine. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay,
for
okay,
the
that's good. Because
yeah.
then that tells you can easily, with what your resume currently looks like and your education, pivoting to a administrative position, a lot of finance positions and a lot of accounting and HR positions pay well, especially if you jump into the private sector. So would you consider going back to school to get a quick 2-year degree in HR? Or would you mind starting from the bottom? Because a lot of one pathway without going to school, since you already went to school, is getting a job as an administrative or HR coordinator.
Right.
That be something you're open to.
Yeah, definitely. I think that would help me overcome my fear of getting the degree in HR or in accounting and then being overqualified for other positions. Let's say I don't go into that field. Now I have a mark or a master's degree in something that I just cannot justify to my next employer of like why I have this or why I don't need to be paid 85,000 to do an administrative job, right? So I think getting my way into it and showing myself not only am I interested in this work, but going back and getting a master's degree would be worth the investment because I know I like it and I know I have a promotion available to me with that degree, then I think that would motivate me and take away a lot of my fears and anxieties about going to get my master's.
Okay. And then my next question with field work, is that something you feel like would bring you more passion?
Yes, I think depending on the field work, it could or could not. I think that field work that requires me to become emotionally invested in something has its pros and cons. I've done a not it wasn't corporate professional, but it was a job in between these different jobs that I've described, where I was doing field work with disadvantaged community, that it just really was hard for me to leave at work. Whenever I came home, I was still very, distraught about things that I had to see and things that I was supporting, or having to provide support to. And I think that I'm the type of person that just struggles to let go of those types of things. If it's like an emotionally taxing day, I take it home with me. So I think that field work, to a certain degree, or a certain type of field work, I could definitely be into. But if it was the type of field work, which is the issue for me, is like the type of work that I'm passionate about and would be willing to go out in the field to do, is the type of work that breaks my heart and makes it hard for me to go home and not be upset. So I think that's another issue that I've run into as far as choosing that next career path, is like, what can I handle and leave at the office, right?
So let me ask you, right now, outside of work, what are your goals? Do you want to own a house? Do you want to travel? Do you want to buy a new car? What are your goals?
Yeah, I think my goals right now are not so much to buy a home or anything like that. I don't think purchases are my goals. I think right now experiences are my goals. I definitely see myself moving around the country within the next 10 to 20 years. I don't see myself like settling down to buy a home until I'm close to 40s, 50s, like that age range. I really want to be mobile for the next couple of decades. And I cannot imagine myself like settling down into a job even for very long. The longest I have been at a job so far is about 2 years. So I really haven't hit like even a 5-year mark with a company. So
Really?
I know. I know. I don't know if it's just my youth where I'm just like flighty, or if it's just been the disappointment of like entering the workforce, realizing that I'm not going to use my major, realizing that I'm, not going to have passion if I want to make money. Like these sort of realizations that I'm coming to terms with have just made me not want to stay at those companies. And I keep leaving, hoping like, okay, if I just do something different, it'll be different, find different people. And it hasn't been different yet. So I'm still trying to figure out what would be best for me, because my goals overall are just to be happy and to feel like I had a full life. And my job is kind of secondary. I feel like the passions that I get come from my hobbies and spending
Yeah.
time with my friends and my family. And I'm trying to find a way to make money so that I can have time and money for those passions.
I love it. I'm just gonna ignore my off camera. Disrespectful. So I think it's wonderful that you are even assessing this, right? So I think a lot of people don't come to terms with, oh my goodness, I'm not going to use my major. Oh, if I want to live in this economy, I need to have a job that pays money. And,
Right.
like, oh, this dream that I had of my future. And I think when you think of your life in different stages, where, okay, well, maybe my 20s are meant to grind it out, maybe my 30s are meant to grind it out. And then 40, 50, that's when I'll have the opportunity to give back or do
Hmm.
what, be the politician that you thought you could be. But I think it's a very healthy train of thought, especially since you've been going through your jobs 2 years at a time. I have a question for you. Have you seen that hinders your interview or job process? Like, you've been able to get jobs successfully. So companies, dispel the myth. Do companies care?
Right.
Is that a question they ask you when you're interviewing? Hey, you seem to jump around.
Hmm. No, I've never gotten that. And in my most recent job, I've been at the current company I'm with for about 8 months. And in this interview rounds, I did not get that question. I feel like it definitely was taboo for our parents' generation, even a little bit older, like older millennial generation, to have a short term at each job. But I think that like younger millennials, Gen Z, they're changing that culture. They're expressing, especially I feel like after the pandemic, are expressing that they need to be reimbursed not only financially, but also emotionally, and also given leave that doesn't have to just do with being sick, but mental health and things like that. I think that our generation is reshaping what we are and aren't willing to tolerate, and we're
Right.
showing like, if we're not going to be able to provide that, I know that Google is progressive, they'll provide that for me, or whatever is progressive, and I'll go and work for, this big company. So I think that that's definitely shaping the culture into something that it wasn't. So no, I don't think that that's an issue right now. I think that it's good to show that I gave it at least a year. I toughed it out. I tried to give it a chance and show them that it wasn't me. I wish that it could have worked out, but it was just not a good fit, right? So like showing that you put in that work, but it's just not something you're going to waste your time on. That also shows them, I think that it's important for people to constantly be challenging themselves professionally. So even if you're happy at your job, to be going through the interview process just to give yourself that practice, and to be looking at jobs to show yourself what is being paid for your position, so that way you can competitively negotiate for raises and such. So I think it's important for people in general to be applying, even if they're not looking to leave their company. And I certainly don't think that leaving after 2 years or so has hindered me so far.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. I think that's what a lot of people are afraid of. Like, oh,
Right.
I have to stay at this, shitty job or with this horrible company because companies are going to think I bounce around a lot and they're not going to want to, hire me. So that's great to hear for everyone
Yes.
listening. There's hope, please. If you're unhappy, leave. It is all right.
Right.
That's fantastic. And let me just tell you something that's really readily open to everyone, or knowledge here. Not everyone uses their major. There's so many people who majored in kinesiology and now they're, finance
Right.
executive somehow. So keeping that in mind, it's so, and I don't know, I'm getting a call. I'm so sorry. Can you hear that? Okay, wonderful. We're just gonna move on. Oh my goodness, so many stops on my end. How unprofessional.
No,
All right, it's entertainment value, right?
you are a working woman. You've got children, pet children.
Busy, busy. So it's really interesting to hear people, and I think I've had many conversations with many professionals or just individuals. Like, I'm not using my degree. What did I go to school for that? At the end of the day, once you come out of it, it's about a job. It's about what's going to fulfill you. It's what's going to pay your bills and what's going to, be the best what's going to move forward for you, right? What makes sense for that? So I have a few more questions for you, and let me just go into this because I want to ask really strategic questions that pertain to you. And please feel free, if you have any questions for me, let me know. Happy to walk you through questions as well. So are you the kind of person that operates, and you might not be because we've already had a conversation, but I want to kind of plant a seed. Do you think about the 5, 10-year, 15-year plan? Like, what is your end goal? Do you have an end goal to what you want to do? And have you started thinking?
No, I have started to think about it. I'm still trying to figure that out, though.
Okay, like let's say more. I think you would be a fantastic politician. So let's say, end goal is politics. For me, I know that's where I'm leaning. So a strategy I have in my head that isn't official, it's just ensuring that my resume aligns well so that when that time comes, if I do decide to run for office, the resume looks good, right?
Right.
So my advice to you is think about it in that way, right? So if you do want to be, the governor of North Carolina, or if you want to be the president, or maybe you want to be a news reporter, I think you would do really well on TV, Martin, or a
Thank you.
reporter, right? What should you be doing now to help you get to those goals, right? So whether it's politics or whether it's, you being a news anchor, being well versed, being able to present in front of a camera, being able to talk to people, that's going to tell you, okay, you need a position that's client facing. Client facing doesn't mean sales. It means you're out in the field doing field work. It means you're maybe doing conferences. It means you're, ensuring that the position you have isn't in the office, right? So once you start thinking about, what does Morgan want to do long-term wise, that will start to help guide you subconsciously as you're looking for jobs. Like, well,
Right.
will this job help me develop this skill set? So this sort of statement will allow me to segue into my next question. How often are you assessing your professional skill set? And what does your improvement plan look like?
Yes. I would say I try to give myself a self-assessment every 6 months. I don't think I have ever had an employer that has given me an assessment, but all of the employees that I've managed, I give them 6-month assessments because I think that it provides it provides valuable feedback. I think that if you are to look at a job as anything more than a paycheck, it's at least trying to get you that better paycheck down the road. So if you're not gaining skills and the resume that you take from them is the resume you gave to them essentially, then you didn't gain anything, right? Other than that paycheck. And I think that it is beneficial to you to try and go to trainings, and if they have a free conference on whatever boring subject, like go to those things and take advantage of whatever resources they're trying to give you. And if there is a bullet point that you can add to your resume from them that they'll pay for, I always take advantage of that. Even if it's something that doesn't interest me right now, it might spark an interest. So that's definitely something that I've tried to do, and I think that, um, yeah, it's helpful to reassess every 6 months. Like, is this job doing something for me? Because this job over here would pay me more, and I would be able to get X, Y, and Z from it. And trying to reevaluate. Do I want to start looking for that next job?
Morgan, it sounds like you need to be my co-host because you are just a phenomenal, just professional. I think self-assessments, which I didn't start doing until I started working. Well, no, I mean, I was kind of a little bit, but not to that caliber, right? You need to be
Mhm.
able to say, oh, I'm, you know, not speaking well at presentations. What am I doing to fix this? Does my company have resources? So it
Mhm.
sounds to me that maybe you are a little more equipped to decide what your next step is. Maybe you have other barriers. Do you think
Mhm.
there are other barriers?
Definitely, definitely. I think it's not that I can't like recognize what I need. It's more so that I'm not sure exactly how to like satisfy those needs, or I haven't been able to in my research like locate a job that would like check all the boxes for me professionally. And so that's kind of where I'm at, like the crossroads of, do I want to take a path that's just going to be, this is a mental job, I'm not putting my emotions into it, I'm just getting my money and it's making a lot of money for me, I'm in it for the money? Or do I want to say no, like that's no way to live? If I have to put 40 hours a week for the rest of my life into something, it needs to be something I'm passionate about. So I really just haven't made that decision yet for myself. And I think I'm just biding my time.
Company, because there's a lot of companies now who give their employees a volunteer day. Like it's okay to
Mhm.
choose the money, the company or the job
True.
that's more, but there is a factor to give back. Or what you could also do is you have your job, right, that pays the bills, pays for the vacations, pays for your lifestyle, and you choose to do things that fulfill you on the weekend, right? You choose
Right.
a nonprofit you want to donate your time for, sit on the board for. Um, that might also be another way to really stretch out your fulfillment, right?
Right.
So you don't know what you're doing. And then another strategy is when you're looking at passions, like whether it's a career or a job. I know I had someone advise me, and I'm sorry if I've said it multiple times on this podcast, but every job will teach you what you're not going to do for the rest of your life until you find it. And sometimes you do have to go through a few ugly ducks
Mhm.
to find what it is, right? Not everyone has the passion to staple papers or prep a meeting for the executives. There's no passion in, doing HR complaints, but and there might be there
Right.
might be some. And then again, when I'm not getting fulfilled with a job, well, what side projects am I doing on the outside, right? Not that I'm not fulfilled in my current job, but this platform is a way to give back, right? So
Mhm.
even though your job will always feel like a job, you have to report out metrics, you have to report out to your boss. What are
Right.
you doing outside of work to fulfill what you would like to do for society? What are your
Right.
contributions? Maybe looking at things like that. Have you considered social media? Have you done that just yet?
Right. No, I think that's very valuable feedback that I need to consider more because no, I really don't. No, to answer your question also, no, I don't like do social media like that, but it is something that like our generation really needs to, that it's an easy way to hustle and make side money. Because and even to just like your any craft or hobby, like when we were talking earlier and I was
Yeah,
just cleaning my kitchen, I'm like ASMR of me cleaning my kitchen, so I could just start recording every time we hang out
exactly.
and make
Someone just
money.
watch it. There's so much people are watching that live stream right now.
I
It's
know. So yeah, I need to take that more seriously. I think I need to take advantage of the resource that our generation has in that way, and also to your point as well, like invest more of my time actively in things that make me passionate and not just to come home and be like, "Fuck, I hate that job. Oh my God," and like let it consume me like that. And I think that's just something that I'm learning to like let go of the stuff at work and take the time at your home to like do what you are passionate about. I think I just need to reset that mindset for sure.
no, and I think to your point, right, when we're joking, and everyone's like, oh, everyone wants to be an influencer, everyone wants to do this, but you know what? Why not? If everyone's doing
Yeah.
it and you're not, and everyone's only doing,
Right.
and you don't know what your social media, it has such a negative connotation, but there's such great resource to whether you want to be a political commentator or whether you want to do, professional development. There is a classy way to do everything, right? If
Right.
that's the going for. But then there's also a really nice outlet. Like I was explaining to Morgan outside of this call, I self-assessment, right? Wanting to be able to speak to people better, wanting to present better on camera. This is not just a platform to help other people. This is a platform to also help me continue the development of my public-facing image persona, uh, that will eventually help me in the long run,
Right.
right? So finding things like this, projects that you could do that are free or it's a very low investment, are really easy. And you know what else I will say, Morgan? Hobbies really help you just mentally simmer down, right? So
Right.
you did mention that you read a lot. Have you ever thought about being what is this? Not a publicist, but like what are those? A book editor.
Like an
Let's put it that
editor, yes. I have thought about it. I don't know. I'm always one of those people that ugh, I know it sounds so stupid going back to like wanting to have a passion and getting paid for it, but I'm also like scared of like what if I become an editor and then all I have to do is read books and I lose my passion for it.
But you're already doing it now in your free
I
time. And
know.
you're not getting paid for it. And being a badass editor, Morgan,
That's true. That's you're giving
you
me a
work for
lot
the
to think
biggest
about.
company in the world.
Actually, I really got to start researching that now. After we get off this phone call, I'm
It's
gonna look at
a
that.
search. So I think we've been emphasizing, clocking off and clocking off. This is my fun question in the segment. As women, men, just human beings, you deal with emotions, a breakup, or you're fighting with your partner, you're fighting with your sisters. How do you navigate your emotions when you're on the clock and you've just had a big fight with someone in your life?
Ooh, I think that what I try to do is to just completely be in denial and pretend like that is not happening.
Yeah.
I like for all intents and purposes that's happening to home Morgan. This is work Morgan. I am like not that Morgan. That's not
Love it.
happening to
You
me.
get to switch off and switch on, and that's it.
It sounds like mental illness when I describe it like that, but I mean it's what I have to do. And then if I'm ever in a moment, which happens, I feel like to everyone, if I'm in a moment where that like is not working, if the emotions are just so strong or they're just so recent that I cannot separate myself from that, then I have no problems taking a moment to just take a step outside or I'll go for a walk, I'll go to my car. Like I try not to put myself in a situation where I'm at my desk or in the bathroom because I really hate people seeing me cry. And I have such fair skin that my eyes get so red immediately and it's like so obvious that I've been crying. So I try to go back to like a private spot in my car or something and just give myself that moment because I feel like when I have those emotions, I really it's I can't stop them. So if I can't turn that switch off and just be work Morgan, then I'm gonna go be sad Morgan, and then I'm gonna come back as work Morgan. I gotta put the hats
I
on
love
separately. I can't do
emotional
it.
intelligence because I know, I think I remember one time I was going through it with an ex partner, and unfortunately, I was front desk. and you could see it in my face. Like my eyes are
Mhm.
swollen, I don't have any makeup. Like the cyan is gone. You're just crying it all out. And you're just trying to compose, like just focus and work when people want to talk to you. That's when being chatty and being a socialite at work is your downfall because you
Yes.
and then as a woman, you're just like, I'm okay. Why did you ask me if I'm okay? I'm not okay.
Oh my God, I know. And the one time I wear makeup to work, that's gonna be the day that I'm crying. So it's like,
Right, right. Just a waterproof, you're at work, you're going through, or some waterproof,
yeah.
or no makeup at all, right? Natural beauty that day. No, I think it's so difficult, and a lot of people don't have that conversation. Like, just as much as someone wants to clock out, when you're going through it at home, emotions go with you. They go with you, and it's so difficult to turn that switch off, right? Because you're at work and you're thinking. It's like that meme. There was a meme where it's like, oh, why you cry? Like, oh, my boyfriend broke up with me, and she's on her like lunch break from Burger King, and the manager. That's why you shouldn't be on your phone on the clock. It's just so it's kind of true,
Exactly.
but it's difficult, but it's good to navigate and it's good to learn those techniques, right? You're always okay to step away, go to the restroom, use your 15-minute break, go walk
Right.
downstairs,
Right.
and try to navigate it as best as possible. And worst case scenario, you
Right.
just tell your boss the gossip of what's happening, and
I
hopefully
know. I am not above texting like, "Hey, I just threw up. I gotta go home." Like, if I need to take that time, mental health is a sick day. I can take that.
no, I think I had one really bad just case, and I'm crying, and I'm like, I need to
Yes,
go at
I
work. Like I'm
know.
working all day, and luckily my boss is cool and let me go like half day. But make sure you have a good relationship with your boss because your stuff
Right.
will let you cry on the clock. Just get that done. Wonderful. So my next question for you is: do you have a mentor, and do you look for
Cur
mentors?
Currently, I do not have one. I don't typically look for one, but I think I like, especially talking to you, I think I'm gonna start looking for one. I think that that's something that I would definitely benefit from.
No, 1000%. I have an amazing mentor. Shout out to Suzanne. And it's been such a fantastic influence where even now that people, and I hate to say this, look up to me, I'm like, me? I'm still looking up to me. But, when you have that guidance, especially when you're in a place in your career where you are, I recommend that. And since you don't know what you want to do, I would recommend you looking for a mentor that has the qualities that you like in a leader,
Right.
and then you start those conversations. And I know we talked about LinkedIn in previous conversations, but there are so many people on LinkedIn who are so open to want to mentor. So I would take time, look at LinkedIn, and choose women from different industries and
Mhm.
schedule a virtual date and say, you know what, I'm starting off in my career. I'd love a few seconds of your time.
Mhm.
And I promise you, they will give it to you. They will give it to you.
I love that. I'm gonna have to do that really because I think that that would benefit me. I've always tried to look for that in like a supervisor, but I'm realizing that that's not always gonna be a role that your supervisor can fill, and you should still look for it even if you're not like blessed with a supervisor that can be that for you, right? So I think I'm gonna have to seek that out for sure.
No, and you don't have to think in the box of just your immediate supervisor. It could be anyone outside of your company or even your boss's boss, right? I think
Right.
sometimes when you're thinking office politics, it's scary, like, oh, well, I'm going to go above them. But
Mhm.
this is your own personal pathway. It's nothing to do with what you're trying to do with your current position or your
Right.
company. So it's less threatening to people, right? When
Right.
you give advice like, hey, I'm young, um, ambitious, I think, right? I want to move forward. Wonderful. So, do you have any questions? Like anything that you might want guidance on?
No, I have a fun question for you though. I want to think about one. So I want you to be able to answer a fun one too.
Okay.
What is a good one? What is a good one? Okay. Okay. If there is a cry day. Obviously, there's going to be happy days. Is there a story that you can tell me that you made your office situation happier or like brought some sort of like happiness to your workplace to improve the morale?
Well, one, I'm always smiling. I'm always smiling.
That's true.
Got people to get iced coffee, right? So that's what is great. I think for me, one, I've experienced bad days, right?
Hmm.
Off the record, today was a bad day for work,
Hmm.
right? But I try to treat others the way I would want to be treated. So even if I have people treating me poorly, or if the workplace morale is dead. There's three people in our office. Well, it's like, well, how do I engage these three people? How do these three people, including myself, create a really happy ambiance where I'm like, hey, if you want to play music, play music. If you want to
Right.
come in your Crocs, come in your Crocs. Just, the big boss is here. Right. So what are some things that'll make the work and office balance
Right.
friendly, happy, light? Like, we can all do our jobs and be top quality professionals, but there has to be some joy in what we do
Right.
and how we're talking to each other in our workspace. I'll tell you a great story about, oh, we had this finance manager, and everyone thought he was the grumpiest, just rude. His name was Esmeralda. I loved him. He was like a Filipino grandpa, and he was about his job. And at the time, I was front desk, and then I got moved to cubicles, and we just laughed. We laughed all day,
Hmm.
all evening, and people would walk by. It just, Esmeralda was laughing, and we were just giggling the whole time we were in the office. Like, what are you guys doing? Having so much fun, right?
Yeah.
And it really helped because, one, I think when you're working as a young professional, and to everyone, your colleagues are older, right? I think there's a
Right.
few memes and TikToks about that. You're best friends with the 57-year-old accountant. There's peace and tranquility that comes with knowing you get along with your colleagues. So I think for me, when I try to make a workplace a home, right? It's just, again, treating others the way you want to be treated. Have a joke and let people know, like, hey, when we have to work, we're going to work. But
Right.
when, it's just us, we don't have to be on 10 all the time. Like, take a moment to
Mhm.
relax, and we'll talk business and crack a few jokes in between. But I think that's the healthiest way to have any office environment. Where,
Yeah.
so I'm not the kind of person who is big on titles. I have a
Mhm.
title currently, and I don't use it the way other people who have my title use it. Not because I feel like I'm changing the lane, but I know when I was not in this position, all of the executives and C suites who were kind and cool, I appreciate it. I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
you're just like me. You're a human being, and you don't need to be pretentious or allow a title to make you feel like you're up here and they're down there.
Right.
Well, we're all working, and at the end of the day, we're all employees to a company. So
Right.
remember, when you're treating people, and don't let the title thing get to your head.
Definitely. Definitely. I can't wait for one day maybe you'll be my boss and you'll have the
Oh
cool
yeah, I
Crocs.
know. Come on back to California. We'll see what we can do about that. Okay, wonderful. So I think we could do a second follow up, because this platform is going to evolve, not just having conversations and dialogue about professions. Thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing your pathway and really admitting where you currently are and where you're moving forward. We
Hmm.
can set up a second strategy call or conversation, whether we do it virtually or privately, on where can we get Morgan in the next 5 years or in the next 10 years, right? What is Morgan's end goal? And really map it out. Sometimes it's just fun, right? When you create those vision boards, and
Yes.
you know what? They're helpful sometimes.
I need
Girls
to.
are up to something when they created that, right? But
Yeah.
really just bring it around your professional development and what you want to do. And I'm going to end this conversation by saying it is okay to not be where you want to be, but it is
Mhm.
even better that you're thinking about it and you're trying to move forward with it. So thank you so much for being my guest, and we hope everyone enjoyed. Sorry about the dog pauses, but You're a parent dog. Dog mom. So much for your time.
Yes, thank you. I had so much fun. Thank you for having me. I definitely will be on again. So thank you and have a good night.